important way of doing it. And digital assessment, public service commission and all, I have seen in many places that item-wise analysis, the digital assessment results will give you the reverse trend. The question marked as easy probably would have been the most difficult one, and then students would have really flunked it, that particular thing. It will give you a reverse opinion or feedback. It's a kind of feedback. So it will really assess, reassess, improve the skills of even item-wise preparation also. So digital assessment is a very important tool. At the same time, it has got its own limitations. Number one, the penetration of technology. Probably it may benefit the metro students, and taking it to the masses will be always a challenge. Mobile could be one particular solution for that. Being an administrator, probably will have to think about the reach and quality of the service. Number two, probably the comprehensive skills probably will be very difficult to get assessed in the digital format. So one has to really think about that, whether the stylus based tab probably will provide you the solution or not. Probably only the future has to pan out the kind of solution for us. So definitely interesting times are ahead, and we'll be very interested to know how the star is performing in this field. So we would like to passionately listen to that, and it's a collaborative effort. The public entity like us listening to the century-old organization like you, that how you are faring. Probably when you feel that it should be taken to masses, probably will be the best person to give you the big data analysis and how best it can be done. It's in fact, when we prepared our new textbooks, we analyzed your books page by page. In fact, I was flipping through the social science book of your own organization, which my daughter proudly carried, and compared with my own preparation, which comes on 6th. And I reserve my comments because only the audience have to say after seeing my books. But definitely my products and our new textbooks, we have compared with all other textbooks in the country, taken out the beautiful positive aspects of it, and blended a new model which will suit us. Definitely it has to suit our clientele. One, we have introduced new models including glossary. Probably the bilingual thing is always difficult in rural areas. We have done that. We have provided the QR code, we have provided the unique items, and new models, everything we have done. Most importantly, the technological part. The technological part also we are doing it. The Government of India has come out with a national teachers platform with the name Diksha. Probably Tamil Nadu is one of the pioneer states in adopting that. So we will extensively use that particular portal in hosting most of our e-books, additional resources, and as well as assessment also. So interesting times are ahead. From the government, we are looking at new initiatives, how better we can shape our kids, and especially the students in Tamil Nadu, the parents, the intellectuals are really positively looking at what are the changes being done in the education field. They are keenly watching it. The students are keenly watching it, and the parents are keenly watching it with great concern. So we are trying to address their genuine expectations. Hopefully, the century-old organization will really come out with a lot of new ideas to further strengthen the process and further qualitatively lead the journey for attaining the wisdom in a more useful way to the kids and the especially the Tamil Nadu scenario. The middle class aspirations are always towards the professional courses. That's the dream. So we are trying to address that. So I'm really excited to see the star, how great the box office impact it could make. Thanks a lot, and really looking forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was a wonderful insight. And we are waiting to join hands with you to take it to the masses. We now invite our keynote speaker, Dr. Rama Matthew, for her address. Dr. Matthew has specialized in teacher education, including practitioner research, language assessment, and English language proficiency development. Welcome, ma'am.
This opportunity to be here to share some of my ideas and thoughts on assessment. Assessment, I call it an expert group which review the competency framework, OUP's competency framework, and we were quite impressed by the way the comprehensive sort of framework was developed. And as an English teacher, I was particularly interested in looking at how it looks at language skill development in assessment. And there I have a few things to say, and I'm going to mention that very briefly. So it'll be a very brief sort of comment and some sort of proposal and examination of what lies ahead for us. I'm going to step aside from STAR. I'm not going to look at that or give my comments on it. But I think as a student of assessment, how do I see assessment happening at the school level, and where do I see it going is what I'm trying to focus on. Very quickly, what are the important considerations that we need to take care of in assessment of any subject, any level for that matter? There is something called washback validity. Washback as in what kind of impact tests have on teaching and learning. Now, especially high stakes tests, that is final exams, summative exams and board exams and so on, have a tremendous impact on what teachers and students do in the classroom. If, for example, from a language point of view, if you test speaking and listening at the secondary level, then that gets taught in the classroom. If that doesn't get assessed, then it's ignored because that's not seen as important. Now that's what I mean by washback validity. So I think tests have to have a strong washback validity for it to have a positive effect on what happens in the classroom, how parents view it, and therefore we have to keep that in mind. So if we do bad assessment, it's invariably going to affect teaching and learning badly, to put it very simply. So we need to consider that. Bias for best. Now this doesn't sound right maybe, but what is meant by that is we have to make our tests in such a way that we get the best out of our children. It's not to sort of trick them or to sort of fault them, but to find out what it is that they know, and assessments will have to sort of highlight that. Very easily said, but then I think you and I, all of us will agree that usually assessments have this a little teasing kind of an approach where they say, look, I'll catch you, or I'll tell you what you don't know. Somehow assessments have this negative kind of an approach, and I think we need to change that. Now the other thing that as a teacher I would like to ask is, can tests teach? Can they be an important tool in teaching itself? That I think is a very important dimension. Can tests be informative? From a test-taking experience, can students learn? Can students find it useful, worthwhile? If not, I think tests are not valid, according to me. Tests will have to be valid, and for that, students have to find it worthwhile. When do they find it worthwhile? When they take away something even from tests. In fact, I have written a paper on this, we have done some research on this. Invariably, tests that make students get excited, I think have a tremendous potential. I think we have to focus on that. Assessment process to be enjoyable and fun. I don't know how many of us here can say that I have loved examinations. I have loved taking exams. I don't know, is there anybody in the audience who have loved taking exams here? Please raise your hand. There's one person. No, maybe my question wasn't clear. Is there anyone who has found assessments or exams fun and enjoyable and exciting? You have. Okay, I don't know if you have understood the question or you don't want to answer it. It's a bit tricky, it's a bit sensitive. But then, yeah, we need to make it not threatening, not intimidating, but then a happy experience. I think we owe it to ourselves to do that. Can assessment be individual-centered? In assessment terms, we have got a term for that, ipsative. Ipsative is a Latin term which means it focuses on the learning of the individual student and not on the class average, not norm referenced, not even criterion referenced. Of course, criterion referencing is very important because we need goalposts at the end of schooling, at the end of class 5 or 9 or whatever. We need to know how well students are doing because there's a curriculum to refer back to. But at the same time, all individuals don't match up to that. Therefore, has a student moved from this level to this level? Maybe some student is already at this level, but has that student moved up to a higher stage? So regardless of where the student is, I think we'll need to look at how well the student is progressing, and I think we need different kinds of tools for that, not standardized assessments. Standardized assessments give us a particular kind of information, but this has to be ipsative based. I won't say more on this now because there's no time. Can they focus on a variety of cognitive abilities rather than just recall? I think we have done enough in this country to look at, as the chief guest said, medium, low, high, HOTS, I think people talked about higher order thinking skills and so on. So we do talk that language, but then I think invariably if you take a question paper, you will see a lot of it is memory based. Do you agree with that? I think we'll have to move away from that because we are teaching to the test. Even so-called HOTS is being taught. So when it is taught, when it is rehearsed, then it is nothing but recall. Even higher order skills become recall. So we'll need to be very conscious of that. I don't know if you must have seen this picture, haven't you? Have you? Yeah. So I'm just going, because I'm very fond of this picture. Now there are different kinds of animals with different abilities, but then a standardized assessment procedure is being employed here. He's saying for a fair selection, because only when you can compare is it fair, in that sense, everyone has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. Now you can see how some people, some of these animals just can't climb trees and they'll fail that test. Please apply this to our students. What are some of the assessment imperatives that we have to do? Assessment usually excludes learners. I mentioned this point earlier. What can students do as opposed to what should students be able to do? I think if we shift the focus a little bit to can, instead of what curriculum demands are, what it should be at grade 5 level or whatever, I think we'll make quite a big headway. Practicality should not override academic considerations. Usually, again I'm speaking from a language teacher assessor point of view, in language assessment, speaking and listening is almost totally ignored.
12 years and our time. So we haven't done the right things, it seems to me. I'm being a bit critical. I also mean standardized assessment as in what is tested through OMR sheets, teamwork or collaborative skills to work in groups. I'm not saying standardized assessments are bad, but then it has got a limitation assessment. In this whole thing, continuing with the imperative, what is the CBSE? I'm not very familiar, has taken back what is called CCE because it's not viable. It doesn't matter, formative assessment. Overnight I sit there and put ticks and put some scores and everything in formative assessment. Teacher as assessor has a very crucial role to play because the teacher is the one who knows about the students. Teacher is the one who can needs to be strong in that area. How do we do that? I don't know. But then in the West it's quite common. So do teachers have assessment literacy? Do they know about assessment?
It's now time for a superstar to launch Oxford Star, and we invite on stage Mr. Uday Chandran, Mr. Nigel Portwood, Mr. Adrian Miller, and Mr. Sivaramakrishnan.
Delighted to be here. I'm a regular visitor to India. India is a very important market for OUP. As you heard earlier, it's one that we've been in for over 100 years. Not as somebody supplying from outside, but very much as an indigenous publisher within India across all sectors in the education and academic system, working in partnership with that system to improve outcomes. As you also heard, Oxford University Press is a department of the University of Oxford. We can trace our origins back 500 years, not quite as far back as the university itself, which has a history of over 800 years. But our objective is that of the university. We are a purpose-driven organisation, not a business-driven organisation. We believe and want to support excellence in research, education and scholarship, and we achieve that through publishing worldwide. And there are some important principles that apply to our activities all around the world that I think underpin our success. The first is that we only operate in scholarly or education markets, not consumer markets. The education market obviously includes the teaching of English, which is a very important part of our operation. Principles that we adhere to: we want to reach as many people as we can around the world, so that encourages us to be a global organisation, one present in as many countries as we possibly can be, and like in India, to be a local organisation, one that is part of the system rather than a supplier from the outside. Secondly, we believe in quality, so we put everything we do through very rigorous standards and processes overseen by the University of Oxford to make sure that we support their objectives properly and that we enhance their reputation. We operate to the highest ethical standards, both as individuals working together in the organisation, but also in business terms and within the societies that we operate. We're an intellectual property organisation, so what we produce is done in partnership with others and in the hands of those in the education sector or the academic research sector. We give them more power to achieve their outcomes. And our outcomes and objectives are an increase in knowledge, better educational outcomes, people able to achieve their full potential. And we, throughout OUP, the 6,000 people that work for the organisation, that's something we think about every single day. Now, in the education markets, there are some further principles or observations that I have around what makes us successful. Certainly, being in as many countries as possible is important. Partnership is integral to our activity. So we understand that education systems are complex, they involve many stakeholders, it's a very professional system, and we know that we can help others achieve their objectives by working in partnership with them, and we can therefore achieve our objective. It's quite fitting that we're in Tamil Nadu for this launch of this very important product. Tamil Nadu is the most important state for OUP. It has a government that really cares about education and is constantly looking to improve. It works in partnership with us and other players, just as you were talking about the curriculum reform, chief guest, that you're implementing right now. We, OUP, have worked in partnership with the government to produce teacher resource material. So they wanted to work with us, and we were able to help support them in their objectives. So it really does embody some of those, Tamil Nadu embodies some of the principles that I said that were important. The other thing that's really a factor in education markets is the use of technology. It's been referred to several times in the speeches today. We see it as a fundamental transformer of our business and activity, but also the potential for education systems to produce even greater outcomes. The power of technology can allow access to materials in a way it couldn't in the past. You can add Services like assessment, you can improve teacher training, you can add distance learning, you can personalise the educational experience to make it more fitting for the individual and for the teacher and for the society in which it is operating. And that is a power that we've never seen before, and we don't yet fully understand it. And that's something that OUP is working to realise the potential of. So let me talk of India. As I say, it's a very important market for us. It's our 5th biggest market, but even as recently as 10 years ago, it was our 10th biggest market, so you can see the rate at which it's becoming important. But it's not just because it is a large growing market that OUP cares about it. Indian society and culture values education to an extent that you rarely, almost never see in other parts of the world. It invests in that education because it realises the potential that it can bring to the country and to individuals within it. And it has been very successful as a result of that investment, and that investment continues. And therefore, by operating in India, not only are we supporting that objective, but we are learning things that we could not learn elsewhere in the world. And in particular, the use of technology is one area where I think India is a true innovator. It's very progressive. Technology is adopted in classrooms, and last year we saw the government increasing budgets for digital education, and that has given a further spur to the adoption of technology in classrooms. And so the OUP India is very much, we think, at the vanguard of that development of technology in the classroom. So early on, of course, we were a textbook supplier. That's been referred to many times. But the pedagogy and material in a textbook does not have to be printed. It can, of course, be represented easily digitally and can be enhanced by that. That was an easy first step for us. We then moved to creating integrated learning solutions that marry together print and digital, and started to realise the potential from the combination of those formats. Oxford Advantage was mentioned earlier. We launched that last year as an integrated solution. And then, of course, we have our approach to bilingual education. So India, of course, the English language in India, of course, the English language is important, and lots of people learn English, and that's a big part of our business. But it's the connection between the vernacular, the local languages, and the English language that's important, and we make sure that all our publishing understands that linkage and takes advantage of it and addresses it. Furthermore, teacher training. I've said that partnership with teachers is incredibly important. That's one thing I believe that OUP does very successfully all around the world, and that's one of the reasons why we've sustained and thrived for as long as we have. And we take the responsibility of helping teachers do their job better seriously. So last year we trained over 100,000 teachers, and certainly through digital technology we're able to offer more effective training to teachers all around India on a scale that we couldn't do in the past. And then finally we come to the purpose of today's launch, which is Oxford STAR and digital assessment. And I was very heartened to hear some of the points made by chief guest and keynote speaker around the importance of assessment, how we need to make it fun. I actually put my hand up saying that I have had fun doing assessments, and not just Oxford STAR. I think that the powerful use of assessment can help a learner, can help a teacher, can help a school and an education system understand better what it's doing well and what it's not doing well, but also use that to improve the learning from that point on by addressing those weaknesses and building on those strengths. And I think that can be fun if done properly through technology. And also, in the hands of educators, the analysis that's available from digital assessment is far greater than was available when it was done on print, and that can help to accelerate the improvement and development. So we are very excited about the launch of this product, and we are delighted that you could be here with us to celebrate it. So I thank you very much again for coming to chief guest, to our keynote speaker, and I look forward to enjoying the launch of this and tea with you afterwards. Thank you very much.
So thank you, sir. It's now time for a product walkthrough to understand the salient features of Oxford STAR. I invite on stage Head Assessments Uma for her presentation.
And also experience it on the experience zone.
Simply the reproduction of the print text. And again, I think assessment has an incredibly important role to play in that. in helping students to navigate that system. He also began to talk, and I think there was a deliberate connection perhaps with the keynote speaker that followed, around the importance of language in assessment, and of course we applaud the extension, that decision to allow for colloquial language responses within assessment, because assessment must also address many forms of diversity, and diversity of language is one part of that. I could make a very strong case for Oxford University Press being well equipped to address that diversity, given the number of countries and languages in which we operate, and we're more than happy to support that if there is a role in the education systems that we serve. Rama then did pick up that theme of language in assessment, and I think that is really important. If there's any opportunity for Oxford University Press to support the development of the CIFR, we'd be very happy to carry on those conversations after this meeting. But I've come to learn a lot more about the importance in language of assessment, because in addition to my work in Asia, I'm a director of Oxford AQA, a partnership between the leading exam board in the UK and Oxford University Press.